What is up, everybody, and welcome to the All-NBA show powered by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet at FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm your host, Adam Mares. I'm joined by my esteemed colleague and Colorado native, or Colorado guest, I should say, Jason Timpf. How you doing, brother?
Oh, good, man. It's kind of cold outside today. I feel like it's finally real winter. It's like 10 degrees outside. I've got some friends showing up to ski on Monday. So allegedly Breckenridge is going to get like 7 to 9 inches of snow this weekend. So let's hope that happens. But dude, I actually wanted to start with a quote from it was from Kevin Harlan last night. I'm not going to give it word for word, but after the Lakers-Clippers game, he was like, man, when all the stars play, it just makes you feel so full. And he was just talking about how much like better the experience is for the fans when the stars play. And I was like literally watching him. I'm like, you're so right, man. Like, it's the regular season can be such a train of like mediocre games sometimes where like this guy's out, that guy's out, this guy's out, that guy's out. And one of the big reasons why I've always been an advocate for shortening the season is I just think we'd have more games like that last night where everyone plays. And it just is, it's better when everyone plays.
Would we though? I mean, honestly, we might just have fewer games, and that means, and you still have the injury. So I'm just not so sure about it. But I will say I did take both of my daughters. We go to 1 game a year, maybe 2 games. I took them to the game against Denver-Charlotte earlier. No Jokic, no Cam Johnson, no Christian Brown, no Aaron Gordon. Nuggets were down 25 in the second quarter. It was like, all right, here we are. This is your one game. What do you think? Fortunately, they're young enough to not care. They were into it, cheering the whole way through, so it worked. But to your point, it is every time I go to the game as a paying customer, that's the thought I have is like, man, this is so different from – I get to access it free, but when I pay for it, you're like, yeah. The game kind of sucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just talk before we get into. We have a great show today. We're gonna have a fun time, like snake drafting players on lottery teams, which I think is kind of a fun experiment just to look at all of the players that are good that are not currently on contending teams. And I think it just creates a good discussion. Plus, some of these players we don't talk about a lot because their teams aren't very relevant. So we'll get into that discussion here. And we're also going to talk about a fantastic Sixers-Rockets game. In my opinion, it was fantastic. And it was fantastic because we keep going back and forth on the Sixers on this show. I believe in them. I don't believe in them. I just wrote them off earlier this week with legs. I said, you know what? I think I officially don't believe in them. And then they give what might be the most encouraging performance of the entire year last night. So we'll get into that as well. But let me start by asking you this, JT. We haven't talked for a week, and since then there's been some big news. First, let me get your thoughts on the Golden State Warriors. I've chewed on this now for 5 days, however long it's been. Initially, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, it's hopeless. Then I start thinking about trades. I've just arrived on there's nothing they can do. All the stuff people have given fake trades and different ideas, I'm like, that doesn't rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic at this point.
Yeah, the Jimmy Butler injury is a death blow, unfortunately. I mean, the margins were already pretty tight to begin with. I was personally pretty high on Golden State. I, on my show, predicted that they would go on a run. I just thought they got ran down by their schedule. And one of the big reasons why they had so much success in this run is that for the first time in years, the Warriors were finding like consistent success with Steph Curry off the floor offensively. And it was because of Jimmy Butler. Jimmy was just having a fantastic season. And as a team, they were able to successfully float the ship offensively when Steph was off the floor, and it was allowing them to rack up wins. And so, you know, even in that context, I thought they needed a piece, someone like a Michael Porter Jr., some sort of offensive juice to make them into a legitimate contender. But like, I was already viewing them as somewhat feisty, as like a second tier team as is. And when you take Jimmy Butler out, there's just too much ground to make up there. And it's just kind of sad. You know, I was talking with you a little bit offline before we went live, but we had a segment on our show today where we were kind of comparing the 2020 Lakers to the 2022 Warriors. And one of the things that I think was unfortunate about what happened with the 2022 Warriors was they were not a super talented team. I mean, Andrew Wiggins or Jordan Poole was their second best player, depending on who you ask.
On offense, yeah.
And like when you look at their team construct, they had Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga and James Wiseman all out of the rotation. None of them looked like legitimate, foundational pieces at that point in time. And I, at the time, was actually advocating for Golden State to try to bolster their chances because I thought they were going to lose to Boston because Boston had so much more talent than them. And if it wasn't for Steph Curry just going absolutely crazy in game 4 of that series, they're down 3-1. They probably lose because they don't have the talent. And they never cashed in those chips. And then when they did, it was too late. And now there's not enough value there to bring the necessary pieces. And then now Jimmy Butler's out of the equation. So it's just kind of a sad story because Steph Curry is one of my favorite players ever, and I just wanted to watch him play in some high leverage games. And now it feels like look at that play-in bracket, Adam. Like, it's probably going to be like Phoenix and the Clippers that get out of there. Like, would you pick the Warriors in a play-in game against either of those teams right now?
It depends on where they fall in the standings, just because if you get 2 cracks at it, I think it's, that ups your odds significantly. Whereas the Clippers have so much work to do right now. It looks like they're going to have to win 2 games. But if you're just asking me who's better, 1 game at a time, who's better, I would definitely take the Clippers. We're going to talk about them later, the Lakers-Clippers one, but I'm just going to quickly, to keep this show moving, quickly say that one of my big revelations from this season is that I just don't think old teams can survive the NBA season anymore. I don't. I think you have to have youth. And what's difficult is you need veterans to win and to win big, and you need youth to survive. And that balance is so delicate. And the teams that have gone old and lost their players, people get upset about it and they blame management. And the teams that go young and then fall apart at the end, you blame management. You should have brought in vets. It's such a narrow window for you to kind of get that balance right. And the Warriors to me are so tilted in the wrong direction. And unfortunately this happened. And, that's the story. Let me ask you though about the Minnesota Timberwolves, because to me, this is the story of the week outside of the Warriors. A week ago, I was so high on them. I thought they were the 3rd best team in the Western Conference and perhaps even in the NBA. And this is the story of the Western Conference this year. No sooner do you buy into a team, do they go on a 4-game losing streak. They lost at Houston. They lost at San Antonio. Okay, those are understandable a little bit, although you wanted those as statement games. They lost at Utah. And then come home and lose to Chicago. They are now on a 4-game skid, 27-18. Right when I picked them to be the 3rd best team in the West, they fall out of the top 6 and into the play-in. What do you make of it?
So there are some realities, so for instance, Anthony Edwards does have a shot diet that is extremely predicated on the 3-point shot. And sometimes you can go cold and you can go 1 for 8 from 3 in a game. And that's one of the things that is a fundamental difference between him and a guy like Shea is there's just, it's far less likely that you'll go 1 for 8 on 15 footers than it is that you'll go 1 for 8 from 3. So there's some realities there. The way their defense falls apart when you take Rudy Gobert off the floor. There are some realities that you see there, but in general, this is a team for me for years now that has been kind of famous for playing bad basketball for a week or two. I've compared them to the Philadelphia Eagles in the sense that if you catch the Eagles on any given regular season night, they can literally look terrible, legitimately awful. But then you get into a big serious game with them and their offensive line is huge and their defensive line is huge and they just maul you and then you lose. And it's that's kind of the way I look at Minnesota, where they can dip in defensive intensity, dip in offensive process. There's certain things that can go the wrong direction for them and they can look bad. If you watch Minnesota, they'll look terrible a dozen times a year, but then they get into a playoff series and they ratchet up their physicality and they maul you on both ends of the floor. And that's just, it's one of the reasons why I have a really hard time getting off the Timberwolves in terms of my optimism with them. Even when they look bad, sometimes I'm just more forgiving. Probably shouldn't be that way, but it's just kind of the way I am with that team.
I get it though, because they are kind of a two-face and their best is really good. And you look at that and you say, hey man, that's what they can do. And then they lose to Utah and Chicago back to back. And you go, they can also do that too. And that's the story of the West, to be honest with you. I mean, teams are rising and falling. Minnesota plays Golden State 2 times in a row. If Golden State wants to steady the ship, and they have not in the immediate aftermath of Jimmy Butler's departure, if they want to, 2 wins at Minnesota would set you up to where you're right there with Minnesota. You basically can drag Minnesota into the mud with you. Like drag one team out of the upper echelon and into the mud with you. So we'll see if that happens.
Well,
Both
in
of those
Golden
games are in
State
Minnesota.
too, Steph has given the Wolves issues over the years. Like the Wolves are a defense that when you attack them like Luka with off the dribble attacks, they can really just cause problems because of how good they are. But their off ball defense can get a little. They can get mixed up off ball and lose shooters, and so Steph is always giving the Wolves issues. So that could be a problem.
One other quick story from the week: Franz Wagner returns in the European game for the Orlando Magic, but maybe he was pushing it a little too soon because he was back in Europe and could get out in front of probably a game he really wanted to play in, and now he's back out again. A little concerning for them because they are another team that's sort of like in purgatory, waiting to make their move, but perhaps it extends a little bit longer in his absence.
Yeah, they already have issues in terms of creating space for their ball handlers when you limit them to just essentially Bane and Paolo and Anthony Black to create shots. I just think it becomes it like dips below that minimum amount of offensive skill that they need because they can do a lot even with a lack of shooting when they have all their ball handlers available. It just is really difficult for them to overcome when one of them's out. They're actually my favorite Klay Thompson team. I want to see them make a deal for Klay.
You know what? It helps. Like they're the team desperate enough, in my opinion, to take some of the risks on with him, and he would. You're right that it does fit, so I could see it. I want the Magic to be good, and I don't know if that is the one that like makes them as good as I hope they can be. Let's get into our game though, because we want to draft some of the players now. The rules here are they cannot be a top 10 team, so they could not currently at this very moment be in the play-in. Which I guess technically opens us up to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Or no, I'm sorry. No, it opens us up to Memphis Grizzlies, Dallas Mavericks, Utah Jazz, Sacramento Kings, New Orleans Pelicans, Pacers, Wizards, Nets, Hornets, and Bucks. Those are the teams we have to pick from. And right as I rattle that off, there's one player on a team that we just mentioned that if you get him on your team, your odds of winning this draft go up like 80%. So we have to, instead of just me deciding who gets the first pick, I decided Atticus would give us a trivia for us to determine who's the first pick. Atticus, do you have a trivia for us?
I do. We are going to go with the total number of bank shots made so far this season.
From the entire NBA.
Entire NBA.
Bank shots. So this would count hooks, or would it count layups?
No layups.
So this is like basically outside the paint, bank shot, jump shots somewhere. This is tough because I feel like we could be off by literally hundreds.
Yeah, well, because there could easily be like 2 or 3 dozen just missed 3-point shots that banked in.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly right.
I'm going to guess 40.
Oh, I'll go over. I thought that makes it easy for me. I'm going to go 41. So this is closest to the pin. What's the actual number?
The actual number is 865.
Jesus. Okay, so they're clearly counting.
That's why I thought this would be perfect.
They got to be counting hooks or something.
Yeah, that's why I thought it would be a fun one, man, because you really can't tell. Like the closest to the pin, you could be off by so much. But I definitely would go over on this one.
There's
all right.
No way there were 800 banked in jump shots. That's got to be hooks.
Like something closer to the basket and stuff. Yeah, you might be right.
All right, fine.
It doesn't matter.
Do it. I still think my team's going to be better without Giannis. So let's do it.
All right. That is the case. Obviously, of the best player that is not on a currently play-in or playoff team is Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's not particularly close. And then on top of that, this is what's sad about the Milwaukee Bucks, and maybe you disagree. I don't think it's that hard to build a team around Giannis. If you just go through and say, okay, what teams would Giannis fit on? Every team you could put out there, you'd be like, yes, they would benefit from having Giannis in some way. Maybe his role changes, but to me, building around Giannis, top 3 or 4 easiest player to build around in the NBA, I think. And so clearly it's him. And that's what's so sad about this Milwaukee Bucks team is that they're this bad despite having one of the best head starts you can have.
I get frustrated just because they had a lot of success towards the tail end of last season playing more with Giannis on the ball and essentially having him play point forward and leaning on guys like Gary Trent and AJ Green, like screening for him and popping out. And Giannis was getting these big assist totals and the offense was flowing because like you're playing through your best ball handler and you're surrounding him with shooting. And what's been really frustrating for me this year is just how often they've played through the guards. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me because the ball just doesn't work its way to Giannis nearly enough. And I think it's just kind of spiraled. Like, I don't think they're as bad as they've looked in the sense that I think they've tuned out their coach now and they're really discouraged by some losses against some of the good teams that they've run into late. And they've kind of let go of the rope. And as soon as you let go of the rope and you're mediocre from a talent perspective, that's when you can start looking really bad.
I like the point about the ball sticking, though, because you are right. Sometimes watching Kevin Porter just dribble the ball at the top of the key, and you're like, what is going to happen this
What are
possession?
we doing?
Absolutely nothing. All right, now you're on the clock for 2 picks, though.
So snake draft. So I go 2 and then you go 2. Is that how this works moving forward?
Yep, you get 2 here.
Give me Anthony Davis and Keontae George.
Well, I can't believe you're taking Keontae George this high. I was considering this. Anthony Davis, high floor defensive player. You're going to have a very good defense. He's probably underrated in his value. That's the thought process, I assume?
Yeah, it's the thought process is I anchor my defense. I anchor my defensive glass. Anthony is actually a pretty good 5-out big in the sense that he can run like DHOs, flow side to side, play make out of the middle of the floor, and he's a 2-man game partner. And to me, Keontae George gives me scoring pop and playmaking out of that guard position. I just like you mentioned the Timberwolves struggling. Part of the reason they lost in Utah is Keontae annihilated them. Like Keontae's hooping this year.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about one of those like the classic kind of markers for a guard, a guy who's averaging in the mid-20s and averaging just shy of 7 assists per game on over 60% true shooting. Like, that's excellent production at the guard spot. I think I've got a really good chance to score with those two as my 2-man game foundation, and I've got a good chance to get stops with AD as my defensive foundation.
Let me ask you this about Keontae George, because I watched a little bit of Utah lately. Just they're one of the teams that had been in like a blind spot for me, but wanted to watch them for that reason specifically. Very great player, incredible scorer. He has a green light right now to gun in a way that, like, sometimes young teams, I see this with Washington a lot, man. You watch Washington play, Bub Carrington takes whatever shot he wants. He doesn't have a restrictor. There's nothing restricting his mind. And it's like at some point you're going to have to actually learn the game. I think there's a little bit of this with Keontae George where I'm like, he almost plays like Cam Thomas or something in terms of he just always gets to attack, and he has games where he's incredible at it. He's clearly a great player. I'm not trying to take that away. But is he as great as he looks right now once the team gets good, and is he actually building towards that? I just have the question about it. I haven't watched him enough to have a strong opinion, but it does seem like his shot selection is a little wild.
So I think that there's a fine line between shot chucking and what is like high level scoring at the 2-guard position or the point guard position, whatever you want to call it. Like the Cam Thomas example, I think like there's the Jalen Green examples. Another, like there are plenty of guards out there where I feel like they're just jacking up bad shots and they're not hitting enough of them. To me, there's a level of playmaking and overall efficiency I'm getting with Keontae that is real. And I think he's got good physical tools for the position. He's got decent size and athleticism. So like, I personally, I'm a big believer in Keontae. I think he's really good. I was off on him early because he wasn't efficient. Like early in his career, he like not even close to efficient. He's taken a massive leap in efficiency. So now the counter example would be to your point. What if he's just hot? You know, and like, yeah, if we fast forward a year and he cools off, it's a different conversation. But we're at a half season here where he's shooting the ball extremely well.
Yeah, I think he's a great player. I think he's a great player, and I don't think he's just hot. I think he's a tough shot maker, to your point. The question is, for me, is tough shot makers on bad teams, how does that translate once you become a good team? Is it just this isolated talent that you have that doesn't, then now you have to build a whole other system and you're the, whatever. And that's what I'm saying is when I watch him play, I don't know that I'm like, who do I pair him with if he's the main guy? But we'll find that out in the coming years. Let me know in the comments, by the way. I'm curious what people think of Keontae George, because I think he's a hard to evaluate player in that way. But you left me I can't believe you left me Larry Markkanen. You just gifted him to me. I now have Giannis and Larry. I'm starting my team with 2 7-foot skill players. I can't believe I get to do this. My team is going to be dominant. What was your thing? I was going to explain my take, but what was your thought process in leaving him on the board?
So ball handling, like my two main concerns are how am I anchoring my defense and how am I creating shots? And so that was kind of the main thing I was looking at there. Anthony Davis as a 2-man game partner with Keontae, I think I'm going to get a lot of great shots. And I think that Anthony Davis is going to anchor me at the rim defensively.
Okay.
So who's your second pick then?
So now after this, it gets tough because now I have to really figure out how to build the team here. I'm actually, it's not so hard for me. I think I'm going to take one of my favorite players that I think people will say I overvalue, but I'm going with Trey Murphy. I think Trey Murphy is another one of these guys that after I build my first two stars, Giannis and Lowry, now I start thinking about what guys fill in the gaps around him. I think Trey Murphy continues with my theme of enormous size, versatile, can do a bunch of different stuff, but mostly he's a shooter. And I've got Giannis and two elite shooters right now around him. That's how you build around Giannis.
Yes,
who both can play defense.
I think that's a great team. I am going to take Michael Porter Jr.
And there's another shooter.
So one of the things I really like about Michael is I think he has a lot of defensive utility as a secondary rim protector behind a rim protector and also as a defensive rebounder. So I kind of like him as a 4 behind Anthony Davis. I think their size would kind of be a rising tide that lifts both of them. Also just like a dead eye catch and shoot guy off the weak side that can also, if we're flowing side to side with Anthony Davis as a handoff fulcrum, Michael Porter Jr. can come around and hit shots. This is where it gets tricky. The next pick.
There's some good players that when you do this exercise, it's hard to picture how they fit into a great team. And like Zion Williamson's on the board. He's a great player, but and he's better than a lot of the players we're going to pick, but it's hard to pick him on a team if you're building a team.
It is. It really is. I'm going to go with, man, I got to match your size and I need secondary ball handling. So I think I'm going to go with Pascal Siakam. And I'm going to play big.
That's a good pick. I think that's the right pick here. I wanted to take him last time, but if you have Giannis, you don't really need Pascal Siakam. I mean, it's a little weird to put both of them there. I think that's a good pick. So to reiterate here, you now have 4 of your players. You have Keontae George at point, Michael Porter Jr., Anthony Davis, and Siakam. A little redundancy with Siakam and Anthony Davis. I mean, that's a great defensive front court. Is Anthony Davis playing center for you now?
So yeah, AD would be the center. I was torn between Siakam and Herb Jones just because of the traditional nature of having a 3-and-D wing that can like chase over the top of screens. I just think Siakam overall is so much better as just a basketball player that it's more of a talent play for me there. Like, yeah, you could argue having Herb at the 3 is a more like natural basketball fit, but to me, the talent level of Siakam just overcame that.
Man, so now I have to decide if I'm just playing Giannis at center because there's not really a great like
stretch
crop
5
of centers, you know. You could try to go with like a Jaren Jackson Jr. here. I don't know if I love. Yeah, you know what? It probably would work. You could space into the corner with Jaren Jackson and Giannis, give you more length. I don't love Jaren Jackson Jr. from a rebounding standpoint. Am I covered on rebounding right now?
When Jaren's at the 4 or next to another big, he's okay. It's just when he's the only big on the floor and it's like Santi Aldama at the 4, they're not going to rebound.
Yeah, and then I love Zach Edey. Part of me would love to take him, but I just don't know if this caliber of big man is really going to work out. And it drops off after that. You're talking about Walker Kessler, Nick Claxton, Derek Queen, who I love, but a little early
you need
there.
Some guards, dude.
I know. So that's where I'm going to go. And I'm debating whether to go with LaMelo Ball or Concaniple. But I think I actually need the ball. I love Concaniple. I mean, that would be the guy I would want to go with. You know what? Screw it. I'm going with both of them. My last 2 picks, I'm taking LaMelo Ball and Concaniple. Because here's the deal. Giannis at center, I'm a little small. Big at Larry Market and Trey Murphy. Big with LaMelo Ball. Concaniple's a little undersized as a shooting guard. But now you're telling me you give me Giannis and 4 elite shooters. Your defense falls off a lot at your point of attack. Not going to lie. It's a tough point of attack defense there. But I've got some length around it. I think I'll go for it.
I don't hate it.
I think
LaMelo is like an offensive engine so that Giannis doesn't have to do all your ball handling. I think that's really valuable.
He's also really good, man. Like, I know he's goofy and nobody wants to, because his low stuff is low, but he's such a good engine. Like, when he's on, the team everybody is moving. Everybody is getting the ball. You're playing fast. He's really good.
So I'm looking here. I want a guy who can guard and shoot threes because I don't need more ball handling between Keontae and having Pascal Siakam. Anthony Davis is going to want to work out of the post. Michael Porter Jr. is a guy I'm going to be running action for coming off of screens. I'm really looking for a guy here that is just a dead-eye three-point shooter that can guard. I think there's a couple of different directions I could go here, but I'm going to go AJ Green.
Okay, just pure shooting.
Just pure shooting at that position. I don't need anything else from that spot.
Team defender.
Other than a dead-eye knockdown three-point shooter, and he's, 44% this season. And I like AJ Green defensively. He's kind of trunky and has like a wide base and low center of gravity, so it's hard for defenders or offensive players to go through him. Yeah. And he just plays super hard all the time.
Yeah, especially on defense. Man, this is kind of an interesting one. I feel like both of us have a light defensive team. Like, if we just didn't imagine these teams as actual teams, clearly they'd be great. But my team would be pretty flawed. A point of attack defense is so important in today's NBA. And if you don't have good point of attack defense, you're vulnerable to all of your other defensive pieces become less valuable because you're constantly in rotation. Yeah. So as great as shooting and an offensive as I think my team would be with Giannis in the middle and 4 elite shooters, defensively it would struggle. And it's funny because we got to use the best players from 10 different teams, 12 different teams, and still I feel like I came up with a flawed team.
Yeah, I think that my team has better defensive personnel, but your team has Giannis. So yeah. I think that is the great equalizer. Like, if you're ranking all the players that you and I picked, there's Giannis somewhere in that 3 or 4 spot, and then it's a massive drop off to the next guy.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. We'll have to make a graphic of this and put it out there and see what people think. I will say, team players that were not picked: Cooper Flagg, Zion Williamson. Great role players like PJ Washington. You had Zach LaVine and CJ McCollum. I don't know if it's surprising that those guys didn't go, but there's some high profile players that did not get picked.
I thought about Cooper instead of Siakam, but I just think Siakam's better than him right now.
I think so too.
But I'm a big believer in Cooper.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson Jr. So there's some interesting ones there. Let us know in the comments what you guys think. And if there was a player that you think automatically should have been picked on either of our teams, let us know. Let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to break down some games from last night, including a very interesting Rockets collapse. Or actually, I shouldn't say collapse. They came back and then couldn't get it done in overtime. But is Embiid back? That's the question I'm going to ask JT on the other side. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all of the gridiron action. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick if your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and more. Get them right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. I'm playing the NBA, though, because we got everything out tonight. I'm going with, this is my lineup I put together here. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 46.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I'm going higher. Jalen Pickett, I don't know if the Nuggets are going to play their guys tonight. So Jalen Pickett, 8.5 rebounds plus assists. I'm going higher on that one. And then Michael Porter Jr. in Boston tonight, 23.5 points. He went off against them a month and a half ago. I think they're going to be locked in on him. I'm going lower on that one. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today. Use promo code ALLNBA to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code ALLNBA. Underdog, make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, New England, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, or Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org or call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. I also want to tell you guys about Shady Rays. You know that moment, the one where you realize you left your favorite sunglasses at the beach, on the roof of your car, or at a gas station 3 states away? Well, I've been there too, but luckily for me, I've got Shady Rays. They've completely changed the game because they're sunglasses that are made for real life. They're seriously good looking, polarized, durable, not stupidly expensive, and they have such a wide variety. Literally hundreds of sunglasses up on their website between all the different styles and colors and options that they have. And here's the wild part. If you lose or break them, even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair. No guilt trips, just replacements. So now I actually wear my sunglasses without fear. On hikes, at concerts, on the boat, wherever, Shady Rays is eyewear that has your back. We've teamed up with Shady Rays to bring you an exclusive offer. Head to shadyrays.com and use the code AC35 for 35% off of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades, rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. All right, back here, segment 2, me and Jason Timpf from the Friday All-NBA show. Let's talk about the games from last night, JT, and we're going to start with our FanDuel game breakdown. This is where we break down one game from the night before. The one we're doing is the Sixers 128-122 overtime win over the Rockets. Had a little controversy as Maxey had a layup to win the game in regulation that was clearly goaltended. They missed the call, so it had to go to overtime. But that became part of the story for me, is that this game required a little bit of resiliency from the 76ers, who blew a big lead. What were they up here? I have it written down. They were up 110-103 with 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Kind of blew it. Should have won in regulation. Didn't get the call, and yet still found a way to win in overtime. That impressed me.
Yeah, so I thought that the block goaltend call at the end of the game, that play was indicative of the dynamic that was controlling things for the Sixers, which was the simple fact that Tyrese Maxey was blowing by everyone nonstop, even in crunch time, regardless of who the defender was. Like on that play, he's matched up one-on-one with Amen Thompson, who I think you and I would probably agree is the best athlete in the NBA right now. Like,
He's certainly in that conversation.
Like, and he had some ridiculous highlights in that game yesterday. But he is matched up with Tyrese one-on-one, and Tyrese literally just goes right around him. Goes right around him, gets all the way to the basket, and gets that non-call on the goaltend. But if he would have made that layup, or if they would have counted it, it would have been one of 6 layups by Tyrese Maxey. Layups in the final 4 minutes of regulation or 5 minutes of overtime. Like
he was determined too, because his shot wasn't necessarily falling. And so it was like he determined, I'm going to the rim. And when he's determined like that, he's so stinking quick.
Oh my gosh, man. Like everyone knows he's the guy with the ball. Everyone knows what he's going to do. Everyone knows where he's going, and they still couldn't stop him. And like, it was every which way. So like the main like kind of coverage thing they were struggling with was they were bringing Sengun up to the level, and you have to, when you're coming up to the level, contain the ball, like, cause you're putting 2 on the ball. So like if you get beat or split or anything like that up at the level, you're dead on arrival, because now it's literally a 5-on-3 and you have no chance to get a stop there. So like Sengun was coming up and Maxey was just going right around him, and he did that to him several times throughout the game. But as it worked into crunch time, he was literally just going by elite athletes one-on-one. Like he had Tari Eason, left wing, one-on-one, blew by him, layup. The Amen Thompson play, one-on-one, blew by him, layup. Transition plays where it's like he's in a 1-on-2 with Kevin Durant and Reed Shepherd in front of him, and he just blows right by them both and gets a wide open layup. Like there was just a ridiculous, like it was a classic speed versus size battle, right? Like Houston's bigger, especially on the perimeter. They had 17 or 15 offensive rebounds. I think they had 15 offensive rebounds. They had a 21-10 second chance points advantage. So Houston had some damage that they did with their size, but ultimately the speed of Philly ended up winning the day at the end, because Tyrese just got wherever he wanted on the floor for layup after layup after layup after layup. It was just an unbelievable performance from him.
It's one of the reasons last night, you get the balance from him and Embiid, and that's like, if you buy into the Sixers, that's what you're buying into, the power and size of Embiid and the speed of Maxey. But Maxey, I think he can have a tendency to go to his like giant step back 3-pointer. So, and when he hits them, it's incredible. And then, it's the mix. Last night, he couldn't get it to fall. And it felt like late in the game, he was like, I'm not taking any jumpers. I'm putting my head down like a running back going up the gut or something. Just like, I am going full speed as hard as I can every single time. And Legs always says he thinks he's the fastest player in the NBA. I don't think that's true, but maybe it is, because you see nights like last night when he's determined just to go downhill. And yes, the best athletes in the NBA can't stop him. But the story for me in this game is not Tyrese Maxey, as great as he was. It was Joel Embiid. 32 points, 15 rebounds, 10 assists. He did have 5 turnovers, but he also had a steal and a block. Played very good defense in key moments in the clutch. We'll talk about maybe one reason why. He's feeling good when he takes to Instagram to troll, as he did last night. Did you see this?
Oh, I didn't see this. What happened?
So apparently years back, Furkan Korkmaz, or maybe it was this summer or this last year, playing with Team Turkey, who says, I used to think Embiid was the best big I've ever seen, but no, now I know it's Sengun. And so he tweeted a picture of him, basically scoring on Sengun, and it just said Furk. And he's feeling good when he's starting to do this stuff. But last night, he played with a pep in his step. When he was really MVP level, it's like it was like a wrestler in the ring. He was so confident that he was putting on a show while playing because he wanted you to know he was dominating. He was doing that last night, had his post game going, made some good defensive plays, and it made it, it looked like, okay, if you can get that Embiid, even if it's just from time to time, that Sixers team is really good again.
Yeah, first of all, there was a funny statistical anomaly that was cracking me up this morning. So I watched the game, and then I look at the box score, and I'm like, Embiid was amazing, but I didn't think his playmaking was really much of the story. Like,
he had some good ones.
So I go back and I click on the assists and watch them all, and they're all his dribble handoffs. So I was like, okay, all right.
He had a nice one though. He had a nice draw the double team and flipped it underneath. Who was it to, man? Was it Kelly Oubre or I can't remember who it was, but he had at least
a couple of nice
pass.
passes, but let's just say he didn't have 10. Let's just put it that way. But it was just kind of funny because I was like, I thought Embiid was amazing, but like, where are these 10 assists coming from? And then I literally looked at the highlights and I'm like, oh, I see. Like every single time he'd dribble hand off to Maxey, and Maxey would go drive through four dudes for a layup. It was an assist. But anyways, Embiid was fantastic. The story of the game really was the post-ups. He had 14 post-ups last night. It was surgically efficient on them. One of the things, like the Sengun piece in particular, like last year, I call it my he's kicking his ass test. Like when I'm watching film every year, there's always like a guy where like you'll watch a game and you'll be like, oh man, he's kicking that dude's ass in one way or another. And Sengun was literally the guy last year that I said that the most about. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how often I'm watching a game and Sengun is just annihilating an opposing big or an opposing front line. And like, I'm watching the game last night and I'm like, Embiid is kicking Sengun's ass. Like he like kicked his,
was,
and like
man.
it was so bad that Sengun started flopping on his post-ups. And on the second one in particular, when he flopped, Embiid laid it in and then just stood over him and stared at him. And I loved the point you made about his attitude, because like the attitude pervades all these like different parts of his game. Like one of the things that he used to do all the time when he was in his prime is he would grift a foul. And then like immediately after doing the rip through, he just dropped the ball and walked to the foul line.
Yeah,
and so like the ref would like still be blowing the whistle and the defender would be complaining. And Embiid's like already standing at the foul line, like getting his feet ready and like wiping his hands. It was what he used to do when he was in his prime. He did that twice last night. And I was like, oh yeah, Embiid's back. Like he's back at it. He's feeling good. And hit a big three at the top of the key. I thought he set some great screens for Maxey and Paul George. Paul George got a clean look at a three in crunch time off of a good screen that he said. I just thought he was excellent last night.
He really was. And, like I said, man, if he can be the secondary option here to what Tyrese Maxey does, now everybody else falls into place. But I have believed this to be the case all year. Haven't gotten to see enough of it because of injuries. But I think the X factor on that team is Kelly Oubre Jr., who was phenomenal last night in his 41 minutes, 26 points on 10 of 14 shooting, 4 of 5 from 3. He made some tough ones too, like contested threes on kickouts, including in the fourth and in the clutch. And it's funny to say he played good defense on Kevin Durant when Kevin Durant kind of scored wherever he wanted, but sometimes that happens to you.
Kelly got a lot of threes off of offensive rebounds too. Like he got some clean looks. Like I didn't think the individual defense was bad.
That's what I'm saying. I thought he played good defense, even though KD ended up with a great night. But I just think that he is the two-way player that completes the system. Obviously, Paul George brings you a lot of stuff and has this upside to be a guy you can go to sometimes. But Kelly Oubre Jr. to me represents like the athleticism and the connecting piece. And we haven't seen it a lot. When you're big three, let me put it this way. When the big three for Philly is Maxey, Embiid, Oubre, I feel great about their chances against anybody in the East.
Yeah, that if you're a Sixers fan, one of the things you're clinging to is that particular lineup they closed the game with. So essentially Maxey with Edgecombe, George with Oubre, and Embiid. They've only played 51 possessions this year. They've been very good.
That's
when
crazy.
They played, and they looked very good last night. They just have barely played. So hopefully now that everyone's healthy, they can get some more reps in, and it kind of like fills all the gaps. To your point, like Edgecombe is guarding and is part, like they forced a lot of turnovers last night. They forced, I think, 17, and I think they scored 24 points off of those turnovers. And that's a lot of the speed at the guard spot. I'd throw Quentin Grimes in here too. The way they just fly around, they force turnovers, they get out in transition. It's also when Maxey's at his best defensively is when he's swarming and using that speed. But then, Paul George just scoring off the weak side. He had a couple of big shots in this game. That one dribble pull up at the end of the third quarter. He had that big pull up 3 with a minute left that cut the lead to 2. And then he corner 3 to cut the lead to 2. And then he started overtime by hitting a pull up 3, a couple big shots. But Kelly Oubre, he had 26 and it was all in the flow. He did take a pull up transition 3 that was tougher, but he was open. So I didn't have any problem with it. You talked about contested catch and shoot shots. He was hitting contested corner 3s. And then the big thing, and he's been doing this a lot more as of late over the last couple of years, but he's a very good, semi-transition. I find a gap and I just hit it with a drive. And now I'm at the front of the rim for a layup or something along those lines. He will get a lot of offense just in the flow by attacking gaps, attacking closeouts, hitting moderately contested catch and shoot 3s. So he can get these big scoring totals. He's averaging 22 points per game over his last 3 games. He's been scoring the basketball, and he does that in the flow without disrupting what Tyrese is doing, without disrupting what Joel Embiid's doing. And that lineup actually makes a lot of sense.
It's a great lineup.
They've got a lot of speed at guard, and Edgecombe is a hustle guy that makes all these plays. And then I thought Paul George was great defensively last night. He had a huge steal at the end of regulation. There was less than a minute left. The Rockets were up by 2. Kevin Durant's trying to throw a high post entry to Sengun along the left elbow area. And Paul George is just doing an aggressive 3-quarter front, and he beats the ball up top and knocks it away. That sparked the fast break where Tyrese Maxey tied the game, tied it at 115. It was a huge defensive play. Paul George had 3 steals last night. And when you have Paul George in this role where he's just defending and playing with an advantage, and Kelly Oubre scoring in the flow, and it's a lot of Maxey Embiid 2-man game and Embiid post-ups, it's just a formula that works, and it worked last night.
It really works, and I love the point about the lineup, and here's my last thing on them. VJ Edgecombe is as a young player, he kind of reminds me of the freshman who hangs out with a group of seniors, and he gets to do it because he doesn't think he's a senior. He kind of keeps his mouth shut and is all right, he goes, oh, I'm the one that has to go, run the errand or whatever. So what I mean by that is he's so talented, and there's moments where he gets going and it's all right, let him play, let him be aggressive. But when he's not, he just finds a place to fit in. And he had this offensive rebound putback that was just pure hustle in the clutch of this game.
That was a crazy rebound.
A great athletic play where he just hustled to get it and finished it.
He beat Jabari Smith to the ball. Jabari Smith's 6 inches taller than him.
And so he's a perfect complement. It's hard for a rookie and a young player in general to fit into a group of not just veterans, but guys that have been around. But he does, because he knows exactly when to be, I'm a talent guy, and when to be, I'm a hustle guy. And so it works for him. So I'm with you, man. That 5-man lineup is, if you believe in the Sixers, it's because you believe in that 5-man lineup. If it could ever stay healthy and play consistent minutes, it might actually be good. That's a big win against the Rockets.
Really big win. And specifically, they were 10-16 after last night on games against teams that were 500 or better. And so they desperately needed this kind of win, just a big signature win over a legitimate second-tier contender in this league, top-tier contender, depending on who you ask. And I just thought it was a good step forward. Again, for them, it's about staying healthy. I mean, they need to get all these guys on the floor often, and to get the reps and to get them to mid-April without suffering some sort of substantial injury. And so I think it's all about just making those little bits of progress. But I think ultimately you got to have some sort of superpower, something that nobody can match up with in order to have a real chance to make noise in a postseason series. And I think Tyrese Maxey's speed is that. I think it's very much the type of a trait that you need to be a defense-breaking playoff team.
On the other side, the Rockets, I still have these big concerns with, and it comes down to a couple things. One, their clutch time offense it reverts back. No matter how hard they try to be a different team, it reverts back to the ball just getting sticky. And I think it's one reason why Embiid might have looked good defensively. He looked great defensively. He did some really good things. But then it made me wonder, how hard was that? How often was he running up to show up top and sinking back down and rotating left to right? The Rockets make it easy on a guy like Embiid, where he can kind of anchor himself and not have to move a lot. And when you watch the clutch, it happened too often. But that's my big question about them is offensively, Ime Udoka seems to want toughness and defense and all these different things. Their offensive identity is not, in my opinion, making great progress as the season goes on, especially in the clutch.
Well, they're very much a brute force type of offense that relies on Kevin Durant and Sengun either attacking one-on-one out of a matchup that they like or playing two-man game up top. And Kevin Durant was having massive turnover issues yesterday, just really struggling to like make basic passes against length. He just threw a lot of passes like directly into hands that were getting deflected. And Sengun, like that's the thing. When I run into this with the Lakers all the time. Like when you're a brute force offense that leans on individual greatness and one of your guys has a bad night, you can't score. Like, and that really is a consistent issue that, like, you know, if you have a guy in Sengun that is not able to create offense in a big spot down at the end, and that's the only way you have to create offense is through brute force through your stars, you can stall out pretty bad. And like, you know, it puts a ton of pressure on the other guy to be amazing. And by the way, the reason why they had a shot to win that game is because Kevin Durant was amazing, you know, but like, it's just a lot to overcome when you're an offense built on individual shot creation and one of your individual shot creators has a bad night.
And then the last piece for me is that Sengun just looked shook last night. He went 2 of 7 from the foul line. And then to your point, as he was getting his butt kicked, there was a little bit of like, I just felt like he was rattled in that game. And it's noteworthy because this is a team that I think wins on toughness. And I thought he looked a little rattled, which is, you know, something to note.
Well, it was funny because to start the game, he didn't want to guard Embiid. So they had him tucked on, you know, Kelly Oubre or VJ Edgecombe on all these possessions while you're asking like Josh Okogie or Jabari Smith to battle with Embiid. And then inevitably, because Embiid was just killing him by drawing fouls and just bullying his way to the basket, they had no choice but to put Sengun on Embiid. Then he really was struggling in the two-man game. It's a disastrous matchup for him because Embiid's way too big and strong for him, and Maxi's way too fast for him in two-man game. And it is worth mentioning, and like Houston has a gaping entry point to their defense in the form of Sengun. Like, if you attack him in space, it puts them in rotation, and then suddenly their depth of athletes doesn't matter as much. And they have routinely this season, Adam, been a bad clutch defense. For all the talk about their clutch offense,
because they have a point of attack.
Awful. Yeah. I mean, you remember the Nuggets games where like they would just score. The Nuggets just score every time down the floor. You know, like there is a defense issue for them in crunch time too, which comes from the fact that if they play Reed Shepherd, he's an entry point. If they play Steven Adams, he's an entry point. Even if they do happen to go with Tari Eason because he's healthy and they plug that specific hole, everything's geared at attacking Sengun.
It's a really good point. And those are the type of points that matter in the playoffs, by the way, because can you fix that? You know, if it's a personnel thing like that, we have to play these guys, but they struggle with it. Let's quickly go to the other game, though, and we'll be quickly because we've talked a lot of Lakers lately, but this is really, to me, more about the Clippers and them getting a win last night over your Lakers. And they get the win in blowout fashion until it wasn't. They were up huge in this game. What was it? 26 points in the third, but then there was a 38-4 rally for the Lakers. I'm going to just open with my take. I have 2 takes on this game, but here's my first one. We mentioned it earlier, and I said we'd circle back. I don't think old teams can win 82 games in the regular season. These are 2 old teams. And I think a lot of games with old teams are going to mirror this. We just saw Lakers versus Denver earlier in the week follow this exact same script, only the Lakers pulled it off, where they got killed early, stormed back late, and got the win. Denver obviously shorthanded. I think they're playing like an old team. But this is what I thought I saw last night. Clippers gave you a lot early and ran out of gas. The Lakers kind of played slow early and then turned it on. And I think that's today's NBA. Teams can only give you so many minutes of hard effort.
Yeah, so the Lakers' defense has been very much a second-half defense over the course of this entire season. As a matter of fact,
defense is hard.
In second-half defensive rating, the Lakers actually ranked 13th this season. It's been kind of a consistent trend for them. Like, they did the same thing to the Raptors. They did the same thing to the Nuggets. They did the same thing to the Clippers. And it can be frustrating to watch.
They've got to be like 30th then, yeah? Are they worst in first-half defense?
They got to be. I'll have to pull it up, but they've got to be like dead last. But like the Lakers have, even when they were winning a lot of games early in the season, it followed this similar formula where like every time they'd go into the half, it would be 72-70, and then they would get into the second half, and then right around the middle of the third quarter, they'd go on a run and they would make something happen. They are 27th in first half defense.
Yeah,
I just pulled that up real quick.
Okay,
but Anyway, like I thought the story of the game was really just the increase in defensive intensity actually forcing the Clippers into some misses. So through the first 3 quarters, the Clippers took 22 pull-up jump shots. They average about 20 and a half per game. So for 22 and 3 quarters, the Lakers did their job in the sense that they contained the ball. They didn't give up a bunch of easy layups other than Zubac's putbacks. He had 10 offensive rebounds last night. He annihilated the Lakers centers, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But like they didn't give up a bunch of wide open catch and shoot threes or layups. They forced them into a lot of pull-up jump shots. But the Lakers, you talked earlier in the show about how important perimeter defense is and like ball pressure. And I 100% agree, because my whole thing is like, if you allow professional ball handlers to comfortably get to their spots, they work. It's like a shooting drill. They dribble through cones and do those same moves all the time, and they knock them down at like a 80% clip in their shooting drills. So if you let them methodically walk to their spots, they're going to hit shots. And by the way, Kawhi Leonard was 7 for 11 on pull-up jump shots last night. Just unbelievable shooting from him. But in that mid-third quarter, Vando comes into the game. He starts pestering Kawhi like full court, just all over the place. Rui Hachimura had a crazy possession against Jordan Miller where he's picking him up 40 feet from the basket. Marcus Smart ball pressure. Like as a team, the Lakers increased their ball pressure considerably. And so they started forcing misses. Like everyone wants to lean on variance. Like, oh, you started hot, you get cold. No. Like variance is a factor, but far more often it's a process thing on both ends of the floor. How well are you playing on offense and what are you doing on defense to disrupt rhythm? Like if you are attacking the basketball and the guy's like struggling to dribble because you're in his pocket the whole time, it's going to be harder for him to go to his tween step back 3 than it would be if you just let him walk into that shot. And so like I thought the Clippers threw a great punch. They really demonstrated their refined offensive skill. They've consistently been one of the best jump shooting teams in the league. Kawhi's having an absurd pull-up jump shooting season. To give you an idea, he's making 4.5 pull-up jump shots per game this year. It's the third most in the entire NBA. Last year, that number was 3. His first year with the Clippers in 2020, that was 3. In Toronto, it was 3. So he's like considerably higher volume on his pull-up jump shot than he's ever been in his career. And he's hitting them at an insane rate. 55% from 2, 39% from 3. Kawhi, it's not robot Kawhi bullying guys for short, easy layups and stuff. He is hitting jump shots over and over again. That's what he's doing. And between that and their increase in defensive intensity and getting Zubac's back healthy, they're just kind of putting it all together. And I mean, this was a team that I thought before the season was going to be the 3 seed. That was my pick before the season. And obviously they butchered that with the way they started, but they've been so good as of late. And it kind of lines up with what I thought they would be before the season. They just couldn't do it to start.
Realistically, in this week, they could find themselves as the 8 seed. Now they would be far behind the 7 seed, but you look at Golden State, Portland, they're also, down there and within striking lane or within striking range, just 2 games ahead of the Clippers, basically. So the Clippers could find themselves in that spot. It'd be a heavy climb to get up any further than that. But I do feel like there would be a psychological edge to being like, okay, we're comfortably now in the top 8 in the Western Conference. But I just want to hammer this point home. As much as I agree with you about the increase in defensive pressure, and that's what flips the game, my point is that only young players can summon that energy for a full game, given what is required in today's NBA, the pace of the game and how spread out it is, how much you have to step up, drop back, sprint left, sprint right. It's just an enormous amount of energy. And that's why I say I agree with you about the Lakers that their defense can be better and has been better in second halves. But I'm saying I don't think it can be better in first halves. That's the whole point. They have to save energy to be able to make these runs, and it gives them this enormous volatility. And they're not the only team. I think there's a lot of teams in the NBA that find themselves in that exact category of, we know we have 24 minutes of defensive energy for a 48-minute game. How are we going to use those?
I totally agree with you, for the record. I think in general, a team like the Lakers has to exist in rotation too, because they're not a good point of attack team. There's a personnel limitation there. Ironically, in the short bursts, they've done that well. I thought they rotated extremely well versus Denver in the game, in their previous game. I thought they rotated extremely well for the most part when they got aggressive in that second half against the Clippers. When they are flying around, they do a good job. But to your point, they can't sustain it for more than a 10, 15 minute burst. And so they can put together a second half run, but they're not a team that's going to be able to defend at that level for 48 minutes. And I your take is one that I completely agree with. And I think you're right. It's very difficult to find that sweet spot. You get like the Thunder, for example, they're kind of interesting because Shea is so mature for a younger player, and he's older than people think, but he's so mature for a younger player. And they just had a lot of mature guys, so they were more mature. They were more mature than you would think for a team on paper with the way their ages looked as you kind of read down the list. And so, like, I think it's very difficult to strike that balance, to your point, of like having enough high-end veteran talent to complement having the youthful exuberance to fly around for 48 minutes, 82 times over the course of 6 months.
Yeah. Last couple things I have for you on the Lakers. Number one, DeAndre Ayton. I feel like everybody's fooling themselves with him because the guy is just not a competitor. The lob, and the best play of the game last night was Luka Doncic throwing a lob to him and him just watching it go over his head. Like, was that to me? Of course it was to you. Who else could it have been to? But I don't think it's a coincidence that 2 games in a row, one, he gets poked in the eye, he comes out the game, Lakers make a comeback against the Nuggets. And then last night, something similar, he goes out of the game or gets cut out of the rotation and they make a comeback. We were joking before we went live about he's only making $8 million. I still think overpaid. I don't think that guy is a guy you can have on your team if you want to be competitive and serious.
So, again, my perspective on this is just very different because of what the center rotation was after the Anthony Davis trade. So, like, after the Anthony Davis trade, it was literally Jackson Hayes and Christian Koloko or Trey Jemison. And then when they got into the postseason, Jackson proved completely unplayable. And so they literally had no center. And so they had a half against the Timberwolves where they played 24 straight minutes with the same 5 guys on the floor. Like, that is what they did, and there was no center.
He is more talented. No, so, like, I'm not questioning the fact that he has more skill and talent and all of these things. I'm saying I don't think he competes. I just don't, and it's hard to have him on the court. It's the talent is worth nothing.
This is the point. All I'm trying to say is, like, look, the best thing that could have happened to the Lakers and Rob Pelinka was this stretch of basketball from Ayton, because it'll stop them from doing something stupid like signing him to a 3-year, $60 million deal. So this is actually a good thing, but for the short term, until they figure out what their center future is. And by the way, even as a Laker fan, I've turned my attention towards them hunting a center at this deadline. And I would include Ayton in that deal if you got to start. Like, if they could get Claxton, that, like, to me, I would rather have that than Herb Jones, for example, because it's just so important to have a center, a foundational center at that position. But, like, the whole point is, like, in the meantime, until they find a Claxton or whoever it is that's going to be their center for the future, he's a placeholder, and he's fine as a placeholder. But fundamentally, everything you're saying, like, what you hit on is the key. I've watched this guy every game this season, and I've rooted for him. He does not compete. He doesn't have fire inside of him that when a guy shoves him under the basket or comes at him in any way, he meets that force with force. He doesn't have that. He wilts.
Yeah.
I'm with you. It's just as a placeholder, he's fine.
You're not with me far enough, because here's what it is. I think a player's, like, competitive spirit and toughness and resiliency, all those things are a multiplier. And for some players, most players, that multiplier is 1. You know, it doesn't add anything because they're average. And there's some players that competitive spirit is like a ×2, a ×3. DeAndre Ayton's is a ×0. That's what I'm getting at. His cancels out whatever talent he has because it is literally multiplying by 0. My camera wants us to get out of here, so we're going to cue the outro music here as we go to the fan duels of the night. These are, of course, the games coming up presented by FanDuels. Rockets Pistons is obviously the game. Pistons keep getting tested, keep winning. Very excited for that one, even though the Rockets are on the second night of a back-to-back. What else is good here? Nuggets Bucks is going to be terrible. Nobody's going to play. Raptors Blazers, that's a good game. So we got 2 games tonight I like. What about you, JT?
Man, that's a tough one. I would say Rockets Pistons is the big one that I'm excited to watch.
Is it weird that I think that the Pistons, the line's 3.5 here on FanDuels, and I'm like, yeah, man, I would take the Pistons here. As good as the Rockets are, I just take the Pistons on it.
It's the battle of the 2 best offensive rebounding teams in the NBA too, so that'll be fun.
Well, there you go. All right, we appreciate everybody hanging out with us here on this Friday. Back with Mark Stein tomorrow. He's back from Europe. Can't wait to hear what he has to say about this new NBA Europe We get an update on that, and then, of course, it's trade season. He always has some little pearl for us that gives us an insight into what's coming around the corner in the upcoming week. So make sure you're locked to the channel for that. Check out Jason Timpf over on Hoops Tonight. Hit the like button on the way out. We'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.